Hi everyone and welcome back to your weekly edition of the Top 10, the hottest selling cards in Magic this week from November 18th to the 24th of 2023. It should come as no surprise to players this week that a lot of sales are standard and commander bound. Now let's take a look at what's been happening in the market space and which cards are selling the most copies. Hi everyone and welcome back. MTG Moxman here, and thanks again for hanging out with me for another weekly update video of the hottest selling cards. The number 10 card this week is Otawara the Soaring City. Now this card comes in with 1,234 sales this week, or a total sales volume of $19,497. This is a massive card seeing play in everything from modern to commander, even vintage and legacy decks. You will find this card pretty much littered everywhere because of its versatile activity, and the sales volume on Black Friday, being the 23rd of November and the 24th of November, saw the surge of these prices just continue to rocket this card's sales volumes. I'll be curious to see how it plays out in next week's video, but for now, it takes the number 10 spot. Now, coming in this week at number 9 is going to be the Growing Rights, and that is 2,025 sales, or a sales volume of $9,942. This card does continue to fall in price, even though it's seeing play in Standard as well as Commander. The sheer volume of copies coming onto the market space is causing a lot of pressure on this card and keeping the price suppressed for now while players can pick up copies cheap. I don't expect this card to do a massive rebound after the 90 days are over. I actually expect things to kind of level out, have this card probably around the sub $5 level, maybe rebound a bit, but don't have a lot of high expectations if you're a speculator on this card. It's just not going to jump the way people think it will. Our number 8 card is from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, and that's Restless Reef, with 2,561 sales, or a total sales volume of $2,202. And at 58 cents a copy, I'm not surprised that players are picking up this card at a bargain basement price. It does see some commander play, of course decks like Esper Adventure, Black Ship, and Self-Milled Dimir, having creatures around that can be lands and be animated when you need them to be to avoid board wipes. Cards that we're seeing from this ilk are going to have a lot of gameplay in the later years as more of these type of animated lands come into play. I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays in the next 90 days as more decks get established and more play happens with this card. I know I'm seeing it a little bit so far in arena decks, so let's see how it all plays out. Now we're coming up to our number 7 card, and when you look at some of the cards that have come along on the top 10, it's no surprise that cards shift out so quickly, and this is no exception either. We're taking a look at the Sentinel of the Nameless City, a total new pop-up here on the top 10. Of course, it has a very cheap price of only 47 cents. It had 2,860 sales this week, or a total sales volume of only $1,687, but that's a lot of copies being sold. Now, this as a 1 green, 2 generic Vigilance Merfolk Warrior Scout means these multi-class abilities allow for cards like this to be used in Merfolk decks and Commander, but they can also show up in anything that's in Modern that uses Merfolk, as well as even standardized decks. Now, this card does have Vigilance, and of course, when it comes into play or attacks, you get that nice little map token, and it's a 1 green, 2 generic for a 3/4. This may only be like a 50-cent card, but it has a lot of options available to players that make it a little more playable than people realize. And we're always looking for new Merfolks, but it also fits into Warrior decks, and with Scout being added on, you can never be sure what's going to come up next from Wizards of the Coast. So when we're taking a look now at our next card, I didn't expect to see this one coming into the top 10, and this is Quitoris, and you know what? 2,970 sales. Guys, this is $39,000 for this card. That's the total sales volume we're talking about. Yes, $13.25 is your average, or $10 is the market price, but what I'm talking about is Planeswalkers don't traditionally hold value. Buying this card at this point in the market before it's had time to peter out is just not one of the things I consider a good sound investment. But it looks like players want to play with the card, and yes, I've seen this card be played multiple times already. I've seen it locally as well as on Arena, so I know it has gameplay. I've seen some of the decks people have built with it using Discover, so I'm well aware of how it can be used, and of course that means it's going to bleed into things like Commander, so keep this stuff in mind for cards like this. but generally speaking, after that window of about a year, this card's going to bottom out and be a really cheap, affordable card. Even though Wizards has gone to this one Planeswalker per set, that doesn't mean a card like this is going to hold exceptional value. I mean, the overall abilities are okay. It's 5 to get out, fun to play with, but in the competitive sphere, even in Standard, I don't see this being a driving card. But you guys will let me know in the comment sections if you think I'm missing something on this particular card. I don't think I am, but you never know. Let's go ahead and take a look at our next card, though. Now we're jumping into something a little more interesting. This is the Skull Spore Nexus coming in at number 5. It had 3,230 sales, or $37,791 in total sales volume. This artifact hasn't really been on the top 10, even though it's been around for a while, but it looks like the Black Friday sales really had people surging on this particular card. And as a legendary artifact and its comparison to things like the Great Henge, I know this card is already finding homes in Commander. We've seen it inside of Arena a lot, and I've seen it locally in 2 or 3 decks already from a few of the stores. It's mainly testing it out to see how it's going to play. I'm not sure how prevalent it's going to be in the Standard format, but I'm looking at a card like this and I'm saying, I remember how it went with the Great Henge. You don't know what the value of this could be later on. And at its price right now, just tanking down to 10 bucks, I don't think there's any harm in picking up a single copy of this card. Let's go ahead now and dive down to the number 4 card this week, and that is going to be Ogier, the Deepest Might. I thought this card may show up because I saw a lot of sales surging. It comes in at number 4 with 3,643 sales, or $37,000 in total sales volume. I mentioned this card during the pre-release. I mentioned it in the spoiler season. It has a lot going for it. It's a powerful card with a cheap casting cost, and like most of the gods from this set, they're highly playable. The token creation one from White isn't seeing a lot of sales because it just costs so much to get out, but if it can stick on the battlefield, all of these gods play in very nicely, and a lot of times, I know players don't even care if you kill the god because then they get the land they need to move on to something bigger later on. This is a good card, good and playable, although I still think the sales on this are a little bit low considering the price is going to continue to fall. It might see a bigger surge next week when I check the numbers, so keep your eyes peeled for a card like this. It may be in the next deck that you play against next week. Alright guys, let's dive down and take a look at the number 3 card, and that is from March of the Machines, Breach the Multiverse. 3,710 sales, or a total sales volume of $12,428. Now, I haven't seen this card on the list since it first got introduced, and it went off the list really quick when March of the Machine was like really high in the sales volumes. So this card being surged back onto the list tells me players are picking it up, they're using it, and they're trying to find different ways. Of course, you can find it in Commander. I've seen this card played in Standard already, and I've seen it on Arena. I'm not surprised because of how the decks are being built now and the way you can sneak these cards on by just dumping mana onto the battlefield. Don't be surprised if this card continues to see a lot of play even after it rotates out. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the number 2 card this week. It might come as a bit of a surprise to everyone, but here we go. We're taking a look at Tishana's Tidebinder. Now, I saw this one in the pre-release and I did mention it, but I'm looking now and I see 4,250 sales, or a total sales volume of $80,750. We're talking Black Lotus level from the reserve list. This thing has a lot of playability. I'm seeing it in Commander, Modern, Standard, basically everywhere that you can get your hands on. Players are trying to buy this card, so keep an eye out. If you got copies, I think this card's going to hit that $20 level. Pay attention and see where it goes. Now we've waited long enough, let's dive down and take a look at the number 1 card this week. And here we are with the Roaming Throne. That's right guys, if you can believe it, this card comes roaring in at number 1 with 4,800 sales, or a total sales volume of $81,312. Now this card is a 4 generic for a 4/4. It's got Ward, and of course when it comes into the battlefield you choose a creature type, and the Roaming Throne is of the chosen type in addition to other types, which is kind of crazy. If a triggered ability of another creature you control of the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. This thing is seeing play basically everywhere right now. Keep your eyes on this card. I don't know if the sales are going to calm down, but I got to admit it's pretty exciting. So let's get to the wrap up of what's going on in the market right now. Those top 10 sales numbers were crazy when you got near the top. $80,000 in the secondary market for numerous cards. And there was a whole bunch of higher price cards, things like Sheoldred, that maybe didn't make the list, but had thousands of dollars in sales. Those Black Friday deals, sealed product didn't move it didn't move. I have a separate video about that. You probably already watched it. But when we're looking at what's going on right now in this space and all the singles moving, crazy. 10%, 15% cashbacks, stores offering discounts on shipping, really caused a lot of players to open their wallets and surge the sales forward. I'll be curious to see how it pans out next week though, as sales traditionally slow down the closer you get to Christmas. Guys, thanks a lot for being here. Don't forget the reserve list top 10 tomorrow, and it is going to be spicy. That's all I can tell you guys. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Remember, if you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Join in the fun and the amazing community we have here for Magic the Gathering. I'll see you guys tomorrow for another video. And of course, if you're shopping on TCG Player, don't forget to use my affiliate link found in the description of this video and many others. Use the current links as the old ones have now gone in, they're voided because of the way TCG Player has vamped things up. But if you hit this link or the one from last week's video, those are active links. And of course, the channel gets a kickback of 3.5% of anything you buy on TCG Player, which allows me to do more stuff here on the channel. So I appreciate everyone's support. Thanks again. I'll see you all tomorrow. A huge shout out and thank you to the amazing Patreon support I get here, my YouTube membership members, the people who make sure that everyone else on YouTube gets to enjoy this content. Thanks again for being my supporters. Thanks for supporting the channel. I'll see you all tomorrow. So here we are. Welcome back to the Ramble Jamble. You are the fans. You gotta be a fan of the channel if you're watching this far. I know. You made it. Number one, I don't have coffee with me. I started filming before I had my coffee, so I'm coffeeless. So if I mention coffee too much, or I'm thinking about coffee too much, or I really want a coffee, it's not that I'm addicted. I'm just thinking about coffee. A lot of coffee. And the fact I don't have coffee. But I'm thinking about, I am mentioning coffee too much. Well, let's forget coffee just for the moment. And let's not talk about coffee. Let's talk about Magic and what's going on. Somebody's buying all these cards. The sales volumes are crazy. And that's just what I was looking at. You can only track so much. You can only look at so much information you're given. Wow. I really wish Sheoldred had gotten higher. I wanted to see some of those sales volumes, and they didn't reach that level. Even a lot of fetch lands sold, which was very surprising considering we know Modern Horizons 3 is going to, possibly be fetch land heaven again. So I'm curious to see how that all plays out as well. But either way, the singles sold crazy good. You wait till that reserve list. That video is crazy. But at the same time, I want to let you guys know, boxes didn't do nothing. You wait. I had the video yesterday. If I did everything right, there's a bonus video going up probably like 10 hours ago. We'll see if people watch it, but crazy stuff. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for being here at the Ramble Jamble. I don't even have water. I left an empty container up because I'm thinking about coffee.